Okay, great. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this session that you join in to hear more about the programs in humanities. And we have two programs that are actually being presented to you. And those are two graduate programs, Communication for Business, Media and Culture, and the Art of Industry of Narration. So we're going to hear about these two programs in the next 45 minutes or so. Well, you're not going to hear about those from me because I'm just a moderator today, but I will just briefly explain to you the interactive options. So you can interact with us indeed by saying where you're logging in from. I see already various people doing that. That's great to see that. Also, of course, you can write your questions at any time. You can do that through the panel called questions right next to it. If you do it there, we make sure we don't miss any questions. You could do that at any time, and we'll be dealing with the questions at the end. Also, I will be opening up some polling questions just to get to know you a little bit better, to get your feedback, so that will come up as well. And last but not least, we have a little fun button, so to say, at the bottom of the screen. When you click on React, that's a button there. You can click on a reaction if you hear something you like. Exactly, that's the one. So by all means, use that. That's just to make it more fun and interactive also for the presenters. And talking about the presenters, let's go over to them. Let's go over to Milan. We go over to Julia, and she's going to introduce herself and the presentation. Good luck.
Yep, absolutely. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us, and thank you, Luke, for the brief introduction. Well, I am Giulia Invernizzi. I work for Università Cattolica del Sacro Cuore in the International Recruitment Department, and today I'm here with Professor Tarantino and Professor Fumagalli to talk about their two programs. So let's go over the agenda, what we're going to do today. So we're going to meet the speakers, and we are also going to go over why you should study in Italy, why Italy is the right place to study, why you should study in Università Cattolica, and what is Università Cattolica, because you may be acquainted to what we do already, or you may not have heard of us before this webinar, so absolutely. And after that, we're going to go over to the main part, an interview with the professors. So we're going to have a nice interactive conversation with them. And we're also going to go over the admission information, just because we know that you are really, really interested in knowing how to get in our programs. So after that, if you have some questions, we are going to try our best to answer the questions. So that would be the agenda for today. Over to the professors, actually. Well, okay. We have Professor Tarantino and Professor Armando Fumagalli. I'm sorry, Professor, I actually sent over the wrong presentation again, but fine. He is the coordinator of the Master of Science in the Art and Industry of Narration, and Professor Tarantino is an associate professor in the Master of Science in Communication for Business, Media and Culture. And I, again, am Giulia Invernizzi. So let's start without any further ado as to why you should study in Italy. So Italy is very well known for food and wine. Well, we all know that. But did you know that we are very good manufacturers and we have one of the best healthcare systems in the world? Probably not. That's the reason why, one of the, well, there's many reasons why you should study in Italy, but I mean, apart from being good winemakers and food producers, we also have a very nice industries who work very well, especially in the luxury sector. And we have a good healthcare system, a good welfare overall. So, I mean, that is probably one of the four good reasons to study in Italy. And this is also why we decided to place our campuses dedicated to each one of these specialties in different places, because you probably do not know this, but Italy is organized in districts actually. So for instance, our production of food and beverage is mainly located in Piacenza and Cremona, and that's why we have a campus there. Our businesses, most of our businesses are located in Milan. The luxury sector is all located in Milan as well. So that's why we have a big campus in Milan. We also have a big campus in Rome because we have a very special collaboration with the Policlinico Gemelli University Hospital. So I'm gonna go over why you should study at Cattolica and why you should choose Cattolica later. But Italy is definitely well known for these four particular reasons, and I think those are the main reasons that you could lead you to decide to study in Italy in particular. But this is Italy. But why? What is Cattolica? Um, who are we? So, we are the largest private state, also non-state university in Europe, recognized and fully accredited. So we are recognized by the Italian Ministry, by the European Union, etc., etc. We were founded in 1921, so we are not really that old compared to other universities, especially oldest universities, because some of the universities you can find in Italy were founded in the medieval times. So we're not old, but we're oldish, and so we know what we do. We have 5 campuses, as I said. We're spread all over Italy. Most of our campuses are actually in the north of Italy, but we also have the Rome campus. We have 12 different schools. So we really range from medicine to philosophy to education to economics. So we really have a lot of schools, and they really love collaborating together. And there are many examples of this in our academic offer. We are a big university with more than 40,000 overall number of students, and I think right now it's more than 5,000 students who are actually international students. We have a lot of partner universities. We do a wonderful job in creating collaborations so that you guys can come here as exchange students, as degree seeking students, as double degree students. So we do our best, basically. We just hit 50 English taught programs, actually. So it's not 40 plus anymore, it's 50. It's 50. And then being Italian at heart, we also have a big part of our academic offer taught in Italian. So that said, well, now that you know who we are, I'm gonna talk about why you should, consider us instead of other universities. Well, we are a well known private institution. That means that we also have some advantages compared to public universities, especially in Italy. We have really low student to teacher ratios compared to other universities. And also the fact that we are private means we have higher funding for both research and for creating programs who are driven by innovation and research itself. Also, we are deeply connected to the job market, and we're going to talk about it a little bit later. But yeah, the job market knows us very, very well. Also, the fact that we have higher funding for research makes up for their rankings that you're going to see online if you look for them. And we're also going to have a look at it a little bit later. But that means we have a really high standard of academics, meaning that we really put a lot of effort into creating a career-oriented education. And I think one of the main peculiarities of Cattolica is that we are a multidisciplinary university. As I said before, we've got 12 different schools. That means that we can do so many things that other universities who are more specialized, and I don't know, maybe in business or in law, etc., they cannot do it as much. So we mix and match between programs. There's interfaculty programs. You meet people who study arts and the arts and industry of narration, but also you meet people who study finance. You meet people who study education. So there's a lot of intertwining and getting to know things that you may not know if you study in another more specialized university. Another thing that I think is interesting in Cattolica is that we have always decided to go for a local campus strategy. So meaning that we want integration with faculties and local communities, but also hosting international students, hosting international faculties. So we try to, match these two um, very different things, very different um, uh, strategies together. That means that we decide where to place our campuses, and we try to, better the communities where we place our campuses. So we are socially, we try to do to make the best out of the places that we decide to put our campuses at. Last but not least, the student experience. We are a big university, so sometimes when you go to a big university, you feel like a number. But actually, in our university, students have always felt a sense of welcome and a sense of support. That probably is because of the associations that we have running, the student support services like the International Student Office, and then also we try to give you as many opportunities as you can to go abroad, to experience different things, to do internships, etc., etc., etc. So student experience actually really, really good at Cattolica University. That's what our students say anyways. So last but not least, as I said, we were going to talk about rankings. Well, we perform really good. I don't know if you are familiar with how rankings are made, but rankings take many factors into account, and then they evaluate universities, and they evaluate a lot of them. More than 5,000 universities were evaluated this year, and we are placed in the top of 450 in the QS World University rankings and top 350 in the Times Higher Education World University ranking last year. You see the asterisks that I put on most of the schools that we have. Those are the schools where we are top 5 in Italy. And I think that this is particularly important even for international students, because it is very related to the next slide I'm going to show you, which is the employer reputation. So our schools are very well known, not only in the academic world, but also in the job market world. The industries, the companies that we work with, they value the way that you guys, after you finish your degree, the way you work, the way you think, the way you were, academically raised. They value it, and that means that we get to have this very nice recognition of being top 5 in Italy in employer reputation. We really strive to give you as many possibilities as we can. As I said, before. So we have 25,000 companies registered in our portal for internships. We organize career days. We have job offers published every year, which are more than 10,000 actually. So that's a lot. So I think this is also really interesting to consider and really important to consider when you move abroad and you want to study in a university which you are not really familiar with. But does this university have a really deep connection with the job market there where I am wanting to study? That I think this slide answers this question in particular. So here we go. Without any further ado, because I know sometimes it gets a little boring after a while I talk. Well, I want to go to the interview time, and we are going to explore the value of humanities today, the skills that these two different but similar in way programs are going to give you, the courses identities, and then the professional opportunities that they can give you. And then after all of this, we are also going to talk a bit about the opportunities and challenges of studying humanities in Italy. And that would be it. So I don't remember if I have another slide. So no, yes. Okay, perfect. Nice. So without any further ado, I am going to go over to Professors Tarantino and Fumagalli. Can I ask you both, in your view, what makes humanities still essential today? Please, Professor Fumagalli.
The thing that humanities is needed for every kind of job. I've been teaching for a good number of years now, let's say 30 years at least, let's say 30 years, and teaching in schools that are schools of literature, philosophy, foreign language. Particularly, I work a lot about what is related with cinema and television. Many of my students now work in cinema and television, but in many other areas of many different jobs. And I've seen that the education and training that they have had in humanities is always essential to do many different kinds of jobs and to step up in different careers. It comes to my mind because it has been a very special moment. This Saturday, we had a class online with an Italian woman, 32 years old, that is writing the next season of Star Trek, and she studied classics. Then she did a specializing master in screenwriting, etc. But she studied classics both in high school and ancient classics in college. So this shows you that a good training in humanities can open more or less any kind of job. Matteo.
Yes. First of all, good afternoon, everybody. Very pleased to be here. I wanted to build on what my colleague Professor Fumagalli has said, and I want to put the accent on one thing. The main value of humanities today is that they are a very good response to a world that is increasingly complex. And the complexity of the issues that we are facing require precisely the kind of mindset that the humanities cultivate, which is, first of all, as Armando also said, manifold and highly flexible. But I want also to stress that it is a form of a mindset, a form of dealing, of addressing the world that essentially draws from the past to interpret the present and project yourself over to the future. And we are living today in a world in which forecasting, prediction, and all sorts of techniques to manage uncertainty are becoming highly critical. Now, at the same time, the world that we are living today requires the engagement with a lot of ethical issues and a lot of creative thinking. And I'm not talking only in the specific fields related to communication. I'm really looking at the wide variety of issues that we are facing. And we are strong believers that there is the deepest and the core value of humanities is precisely to train this kind of skills, which then, as Armando also said, can be applied across the whole spectrum of jobs and opportunities.
Thank you very much. So going on with you, Professor Tarantino, how does your program reflect this relevance in a business and media context?
Thank you. Yes, so the Masters in Communication for Business, Media and Culture essentially rests on three main pillars. So one pillar is precisely this mindset that cultivates interdisciplinarity, flexibility, creativity, critical thinking, and so on and so forth. And this is the pillar of humanities. And the other pillar is the business attitude. So it sits at the intersection between business and communication, essentially, and therefore it draws upon two of the components that define essentially most of the world and the society that we are living into today. Again, the complexity and the need to address complex issues in creative and complex ways. And on the other side, the need to do it in a way that is sustainable also from the economic perspective. So the whole identity, if you want, of the master course is precisely to train professionals which can join together, let's say, the creativity and the inspiration and the ability to build craft, innovative solutions, and solutions that rest upon the whole tradition that we cultivate, but also that can do it in a way that can respect balance sheets and that can make sense to investors. So that's if you want, the duality that rests at the core of this master program.
Thank you very much. Professor Fumagalli, how is this expressed in narrative and creative industries? So what makes humanities an expression of narrative and creative industries?
Yes, when we thought of this program that is relatively recent, we focused on the fact that both the industry of publishing, so what is related to novels, but also comics, graphic novels, etc., and the industry of the audiovisual, so mainly cinema and television and all the other sides, for example, advertising, etc., are considered on an academic point of view in many parts of the world like two very different industries, two very different topics, but in fact they share a lot of things. Also in real life, there is more and more connection between the two industries that are very, very strongly connected. In Italy, for example, we have had the recent case of the Leopard in Gattopardo, that was a very famous novel that has become a worldwide TV series for Netflix. And it all started with a production company that is here in Milan, that bought the rights of the adaptation of this very famous novel. And they have been able to build up a project that is a 40 million project, very well done, about a TV series of 6 episodes. So this shows that the two industries are strongly connected. So we wanted to develop a program that shows to the students and makes them understand how cinema and television, their ground is based on literature, and how the two areas interact, because they in fact interact a lot. So we have put the industrial side, but also the creative side. And we also chose to fill a gap, because in many programs that are related to cinema and audiovisual, etc., they forget that there is a big market of content for kids. So we created a course on writing and producing for animation, a specific course on creating content for kids, because this is a big, just thing to Disney, thing to the animation films that now are big box office hits, or the animation TV series that are produced worldwide. This is a big area of the industry that has practically no teaching in universities, and we started that. We have a good relations also with the Association of Companies of Animation in Italy, and we give a foundation at least to be able to work in these industries.
Thank you very much. I'm glad you mentioned Gattopardo, actually, because I loved the series. So I saw it and I really loved it. And if anybody did not watch it yet, please, please, please go watch it. It's so cute.
Yes.
So
and you see a Sicily that is so beautiful. You see a Sicily that is so beautiful. And in the series, I've been working one former student of ours. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. So I want to ask both of you, what are the core skills that students develop in your course?
Matteo.
So the master is designed to develop essentially 4 families of skills. So we have the ability to develop solutions for communication, which requires in turn a deep knowledge of both the past and the present and the current future trends of the field. So the professional that emerges from the master is able to orient herself in the best possible way in the current situation in media, not only in Europe, but in many contexts. We have students from everywhere that have gone on to develop very successful careers in many, many countries of the world. This knowledge of the field and the ability to create these solutions is matched with leadership skills, so the ability to go and design implementation strategies, commandeer resources, and align priorities in order to develop, to implement, this kind of solutions. We also have a sizable skill set that is related to technology, data management, and for those students who feel so inclined, also down to very hard skills such as coding that they can develop and make up a significant part of the new required professional skills, also in the field of communication. And then there is a 4th family of skills, which is the business side. So the ability to, as I was saying before, manage and be able to address the economic concern. So starting from the basic things like how do you read a balance sheet, how do you draw a budget, how do you respect it, how do you set up workflows, milestones, chains, and so on and so forth, so that the professional is fully rounded. And one of the things, the skill that really glues all of this together, is a scientific approach to creativity, so to the ability of nurture ideas and to make of any workplace first and foremost place in which new effective ideas are developed, and that it is a meta skill in itself. And finally, we have vast, of course, strong investment in the ability to address multinational context. So both from the linguistic and also from the more soft skills field. So that would be the bouquet of skills that the master course develops.
Thank you, Professor Fumagalli.
Yes, we have a strong foundation in English and American literature, in English drama. Obviously, Shakespeare still is like a number one always in every aspect of storytelling. That is, he works so well in characters, stories, themes, emotions. So in the course, we have some courses and exams that are related to English and American literature and drama. Then we have courses that are, well, some courses are related also with English language, because you improve, and one aspect of the course is also to have a very high level of speaking and understanding of English language. And also we have this side of the audiovisual industry and the publishing industry. We have a course on art and industry of publishing. We have a course about the history and industry of cinema, because many people love cinema, they don't know how it works. Then we have a course on transmedia storytelling. We have a course that is done very, very well on writing for cinema and television, that gives a strong basis for learning to write. In fact, some people then, after our MA in the art and industry narration, decide to go on this field with a specializing master in writing, in screenwriting. But this course gives a strong foundation. Then we have the area of kids, with a couple of courses that are, as I said, related with animation and creating content for kids. So this is the bouquet that has got the connection between these two sides, literature and audiovisual.
Thank you very much. So a question for Professor Tarantino. How do students apply these skills to real-world communication challenges in business or media context? Can you give us an example?
Of how? You mean from a learning perspective? So
yeah. Is there like any project that, you know, it comes to your mind and says, yeah, you know, this particular project, it really has like all the skills that I mentioned before, and they all used it?
Sure. So throughout the entirety of the 2 years of the master course, the students are actually continuously asked to deliver project works which are fully plugged into the economic sphere of Milan. So the way they learn is essentially by measuring themselves against real-world objectives that are incorporated in most of the courses, in most of the classes, as deliverables, final deliverables. And therefore, they, throughout the course, throughout the curriculum, they continuously are asked by companies, by institutions, to think and deliver, think and deliver, think and deliver. And they continuously are honestly very deeply challenged, because, of course, these are real companies, these are real institutions, and they range from very big companies, very large banks, all the way, for example, to a big projects that we ran a few years ago with the Sant'Ambrogio's cathedral, which is right next to the university, incidentally, one of the most impressive monuments that you can see in Milan. And to rethink, and they needed strategies to rethink the way they were communicating outward. So you will be given the opportunity to work with world-class, for example, cultural heritage sites, and then all the way to working with again, large multinational, large banks, a variety of possible clients. So they continuously engage us throughout the curriculum in a variety of courses. So this is really study, learn by doing, in parallel of with learn by studying. And aside from all of these subjects, engaging the students directly in courses. So the course is developed in collaboration with this kind of institutions, public and private. There are also many extracurricular activities that work to the same purpose. So you have all sorts of engagements that continuously bring the students to measure themselves with learning by doing in real world situations, in real world context. So that's, I would say, one of the big opportunities that this mix between the business side and the humanities side offer to the students.
That is very interesting. Professor Fumagalli, how do students learn to translate creative storytelling into professional tools across what you said, literature, screenwriting, visual media, cinema? How do you do that?
Well, we learn, we teach them the basics, because obviously we can teach aspects that are basic for different, let's say, formats, for different forms, for different ways of expression. So at the end of the 2 years, they are, I think, very good in evaluating projects, in understanding if a project is good enough for to go on. Obviously, there are some aspects of the professional world in which, for example, if you want to be in some way content creator, and I mean especially the top ones that are writing for cinema or TV series, that need a step forward, more specialized. But for example, we have had alumni, for students, graduates that have gone to work, for example, in selecting novels for important publishing companies, or working on TV shows, etc. Because they learn to understand, they understand what is working and what is not. There is a common area, that is the area of, that now is like, as a fashionable name, that is storytelling. But it's true that storytelling has some basic principles that can be applied to very different media. So, for example, we had a class by the author of of a brand that is Italian but is all over the world. I think this series of books sold around 200 million copies. That is Geronimo Stilton. Is a very, very famous IPs that in Italy everyone knows, but I know that is also in China and many countries in the world. And for example, when she spoke about creating this character that is now 20 years old, and many young people all over the world have been growing with that, she was telling some basic principles of storytelling, that of how creating a character, which kind of stories, which kind of ending, etc., that you can comparably apply to many different kind of stories. So this is things that you learn. You learn also the specificity of some industries, and then something more specialized can be a following step.
Thank you. So I have a question for both of us. And I want to ask you, what kind of students thrive in your programs? What is the ideal student for your program? Please, Professor Tarantino.
So the master's course is looking for students who are obviously creative, open-minded, dedicated, because there's a lot of work to be done. It's not the easiest or most, let's say, light of masters, as you can imagine, combining business as a strong foundation in economics, so numbers, and a lot of number crunching, with humanities and creativity, requires also to move continuously across disciplines. And that's also something that we are looking for, and something that our best students have in spades. So the ability and the flexibility to move interdisciplinarily. They need to be curious, because the master course presents them with a lot of stimuli that they can engage with. We expect them also to be passionate about communication and media. That helps a lot. This is a general rule that you should engage in university with things that you actually care about. And so there's a lot to be gained in working in communication from a position of actually having a passion for some, if not all, of media. So again, in a nutshell, curious, hardworking, open-minded, flexible, and dedicated.
If it's to me, yes, I would sum up this and in one sentence is students who have a deep love for stories, be them on a novel or on any kind of form, etc. Because this love for stories makes you love also what you study, both in literature, in cinema, in television, etc. Obviously, what my colleague said before, it's also are very important parts of any young professional today. If I have to go to something really specific, I would say this. And we are I've been until now very lucky because we have had wonderful students from all over the world that had this big passion.
Yeah. Well, let me reiterate that you should study something that you really like, because in general, university is kind of hard if you don't like it. It becomes really impossible if you go into a master's degree. I think you can manage like a bachelor's degree in something you don't particularly like, but after 3 years, you're not gonna manage you're not gonna manage another 2 years of something you're not passionate about. So choose wisely, I would say. I would add. Thank you very much. I also have one last question, actually, for both of you. What are the opportunities and challenges for international students who wish to study humanities in Italy? And why is Milan specifically an ideal place to develop a career in communication or storytelling, or both, anyways? Professor Fumagalli, could you go first?
Yes. Yes. Well, Milan is a big industry related to communication in many different aspects that go from the communication of fashion to the communication of advertising. We are the capital in Italy for advertising. We have the headquarters of commissioners of TV series, but also of live show, reality show, TV show, etc. In this, I have to be honest with the foreign student, because to work in the real development of creative content, the real development of story, obviously you have to be you have to have a very good command of Italian, because an important part of these industries is obviously culturally defined by the fact that something has to be, it has to feel Italian. But for students who come from other countries of the world and maybe just learn a little bit of Italian, they have the possibility to insert themselves. For example, some of them, some of our foreign students that came from countries that are very far away, etc. There was something like collaborators of magazines or newspapers in Milan for media of their countries, or they've been working on more practical aspects of communication, or also on this a kind of communication that is not so culturally specific, like let's say a publishing company or the development of stories for the Italian market. So this is Milan is becoming more and more international, but it's not like at the moment like towns like Amsterdam, let's say, or Stockholm, or Copenhagen, where if you learn very well English, you are completely inside all of the different aspects of the industry. So this is basically the idea. But we have had, and we have also students that in 2 years, obviously for some of them it's easier, people who come from Latin America, etc., that have such a good command of Italian that they can work for development of TV series for Sky, for example. We have had an example of one coming from Latin America like this.
Thank you. Professor Tarantino?
Okay, on my side, of course, the professionals that we train have a larger scope of operation. So the real question would be, what's not to like in studying humanities and business in Milan, in the sense that from the humanities side, you're plugged into a system that combines really the best of both worlds, because Milan is very good infrastructurally. So amongst the cities in Italy is one with the most vibrant cultural life. So whatever media it is that you are interested into, you will find plenty of cultural initiatives, cultural infrastructures, and companies that work also, as Armando has said, they work in Milan. But at the same time, you will be plugged also in a cultural system that obviously goes back millennia, and that it really nurtures you when you study this kind of disciplines here. I mean, it's not because we are the Catholic University, of course, but it's enough to stroll into any of the dozens of churches that you have in Milan to see, to have an experience of forms of very advanced communication and very advanced communication technologies for the time that evolved over the centuries and are there to inspire us. I mean, in Milan, it is the place where you can go from. There are some of the best cinema festivals, most interesting, both underground and mainstream. But then you can stroll and have a look at Leonardo's work, and then you can go back and listen to some music at the Scala. I mean, whatever it is that you are interested into, really, from the media point of view and the humanities point of view, the arts, the literature, Milan really nurtures you. I mean, the whole of Italy really nurtures you. But the advantage of Milan is that it's very convenient from an infrastructural point of view. So it's easier to live in Milan for an international student than elsewhere in Italy, outside particularly of big cities. But the other point is that it's very good from the business perspective for three reasons. Number one, as Armando also said, there is a very high number of very large companies that are headquarters in Milan. But also there is a geographical advantage. So Milan is very close to Central Europe. So you can travel with very little time and reach Switzerland, Germany, France, and so on and so forth. There are very good airports. So it's a very good hub business-wise to be connected with the bleeding edge, essentially, of business in Europe. So if you combine these two, you can see that from both the training, the inspiration, the nurturing perspective, but also from the perspective of, okay, then am I going to find a good internship? Am I going to find good job prospects in the territory after this? Milan really combines the best of the two.
Yeah, I could not agree more with what you just said, Professor Tarantino. Really, Milan is an amazing city, and I think it is the best one for international students. It has become very, very much more international than it used to be in the last 10 years, I think. There has been a boom in international students and international professionals who actually established themselves here. And if you go around Milan, it's really easy to find people who speak other languages. So that gives you the idea of how international Milan has become in the last 5 to 10 years. Thank you very much, professors. It was very interesting. I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move on to the next and last part of the webinar, which is actually the admissions part, because usually that's what our students ask the most. As you might have noticed, these two master's degree have something in common, but they're not really like the same program. So they have kind of different admissions requirements. Let's start from the Master of Science in Communication for Business, Media and Culture with an application deadline which is 7 May 2025. It's the last deadline to apply, whether you are non-EU students or EU students. That doesn't change. And the background is also different. The background that you need to get in order to start successfully this master is background in marketing and media studies. Whereas if you look at the Master of Science in the Art and Industry of Narration, you most definitely need to have a background in literature and or also media studies. So these are kind of similar, but they differ a little bit. Another difference is, as I said, the deadline, because for the Master of Science in the Art and Industry of Narration, we have a different deadline for non-EU students and EU students. EU students have until the 25th of June to actually apply, although what I always suggest is to apply early, because even if you come from Europe and you don't need a visa to study here, well, the process of actually moving to another place is lengthy. So what I would advise is always to apply early. What the general entry requirements, which are the same for both, are well, an undergraduate degree that has to be obtained by the 31st of July 2025 from an accredited institution, of course, and a B2 English level minimum. You can find the list of English certificates that we accept on the web pages, actually, of the programs. We're going to link them over in a couple minutes. But yeah, that is those are the two main entry requirements. I would say you cannot enter any of our master's degrees without an undergraduate degree and the B2 English level if you wish to study in English. Then another thing that is the same are the tuition fees. The tuition fees are always going to be 6,625 for EU students, and for non-EU students it's going to be 9,550. But there are scholarships available which reduce the fee to 6,400 euros. So and you can ask for that while you apply. An important note, because we may have students who are watching us from partner universities. Tuition fees and entry requirements differ if you come from a partner university. So if you want to get a double degree, or if you come from a university which has a particular partnership with us, like an agreement, please get to us. Just shoot us an email, where we know where to direct you. That would be it from my side. So I think it is the question and answer time. Luke, can you help me with that?
Yes, sure, I can. And we did already receive several questions, so we're going to go over to those. Just one more thing to highlight actually is that I know these days a lot of people watch the recording. So if you're watching the recording, you can still write your questions. Of course, we cannot answer them live right away, but we can send them through to the staff of Università Cattolica del Sacro Cuore. Hope that pronounced it correct. So let's go over to the live questions. So we have a question from Katarina. How can students who are not economically strong find scholarships? Well, you just mentioned that, I think, when applying, I believe, but do you want to add something to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, if you are from a non-EU country, you can apply for the Università Cattolica del Sacro Cuore International Scholarship. While you actually apply, you're gonna tick a box asking for the scholarship. So they're gonna evaluate your profile and see whether you are eligible or not. Another alternative is the UniCatt system. UniCatt is our institution who takes care of everything related to student services, including scholarships. You can go to their website specifically. It's educat.eu. So they're gonna have some scholarships for which are merit-based and income-based. So they're gonna combine your merits and your income, and they're gonna see whether you are eligible to have a discount, and a more, a bigger discount maybe, or a smaller discount. It really depends on your income. and on your merit. One thing to know is that EduCatt unfortunately doesn't give out scholarships until like end of October, beginning of November. So you're gonna know later on if you're actually eligible for an EduCatt scholarship. And the EduCatt scholarships actually change every year because it really depends on how much EduCatt as an institution has available in order to create all the scholarships and distribute them. So this is one of the things that you have to keep in mind. So you have to be prepared to pay the highest fee, but then most of the times, yes, you would receive one if you, of course, if your income is one that deserves a scholarship, but you have to wait until you get an admission, and when you get like an eligibility statement, which is later in the year.
Okay, great. Hopefully that answered that. Thank you. And next question from Marcela. I'm in Chile, and when can I start the application?
Well, applications are open still. You can apply until the 7th of May. Well, that's the final deadline, as I already said, for communications for business, media, and culture, but it's also a round deadline for the art and industry of narration. And if you are from a non-EU country, it is actually a final deadline as well. So you're from Chile, which is non-EU, unless you have a EU passport, so you don't need a visa. That's gonna be your final date for applying.
Okay. Thank you. Next question from Margarita. How long is the course?
It's 2 years. Both of them are 2 years.
Okay. Hope that answered that. Nicole, we're asking about the resources in the library. Are they mainly in Italian or in English?
I think they're a good mix, right, professors? Okay.
Both are nodding.
Yes, absolutely. Well, it was born mostly Italian, but in recent years, I think most of the books that have been acquired are English, because most of the scholar work is done in English.
Okay, thank you. Next question from Negar about the program Communication, Business, Media and Culture. What to do if I'm placed in the wait list? When will I be informed if I'm in or not?
Okay. So what to do when you're placed in a wait list? The name says it. Unfortunately, you have to wait. That would be what you need to do. The one thing that I have to tell you, and that I can tell you, is that usually wait lists actually have movements throughout the summer, and usually the last, the definitive ones come out in July, but I would say so until July. I would say that there will be some movement. After that, it's gonna be more difficult, also because of the timing that it needs. That students need to get a visa. So yeah, I would expect the final actual call to be at the beginning of July, mid-July, before we close for our summer break.
Okay, that answered that question. And let's see, we go over to the next question from Chevilana. Can I apply online? And what is the exam and what documents are required?
Yeah, you can apply online, and there is no exam actually. We just evaluate you. Well, our colleagues from the international office instead, they evaluate you on your academic background and what you have done in the past, your motivation letter, which is the second one that you really have to take care of, and make sure it's the best one you can come up with before you apply. reference letter is also required from either your professors as a bachelor's degree student, or if you have worked already, from your previous work buddies, work boss and stuff. A CV is also required, and then of course you're gonna have to upload your documents like your ID and passport. Also, if you already have it, we can, and we want to see the undergraduate degree that you have pursued. If you don't have it yet because you're graduating in the next months, usually the transcripts from the first year, the last year, or sorry, the last final year that you did, is also something that we require. The transcripts that you have available, they're going to be uploaded, and that would be it, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm not forgetting anything, because it's a long list. But yeah,
Yes.
everything can be done online.
Yeah, and we do a final interview with the candidates.
Right. If you pass the first, if you pass the first round of evaluation, then you're gonna have a final interview.
Okay. Thank you. Let's go. And meanwhile, I just wanted to mention also, I open up the polling, so there's some more options to answer the polling questions, just to know also what information you're still looking for example. So let us know. We're going over to the next question from Dennis. Dennis is asking, in what ways can storytelling become a legitimate resource for sociological theorizing? Okay.
Well, that's an academic question, so I think it is something that I cannot answer. Please, professors, give me a hand.
Well,
what can you say about it briefly? Yeah,
I would say very, very, very shortly. So the question was how sociological thinking is nurtured by storytelling.
in what ways can storytelling become a legitimate resource for sociological theorizing?
Yes. Well, if you use, I will say this: if you use storytelling as an essentialization of a description of a society, you maybe use that. Obviously, not everyone accepts that, but many scholars say that they have learned about a society much more reading a novel than reading dozens of sociological books. So this is a short answer. Obviously, you need more detail, but I will stay here for the moment.
Okay. We're getting a thumbs up, so I guess that is answering that. All right. Those were the questions we've received so far. I have opened up another question for the audience. So that is to also know about, what kind of information we're still looking for. The top seems to be currently cost of living. Is there something briefly you can say about that in Milan?
Yeah, absolutely. It is something very important, and I understand why it comes up every single webinar we make. Actually, look, I think. So, cost of living, of course, depends on how you're used to live in your country. So, if you're used to, being on your own, going out for dinner like every 2 days, having takeout all the time, or I don't know, going and socializing every day. Of course, it's going to be much more expensive than getting a place with some other students, and I don't know, cooking at home. So definitely it is something that you have to consider based on the way you used to live life right now. But a good baseline would be monthly, I would say around 1,500 euros. That would make up for at least 12,000 to 15,000 euros a year. Just to have you an idea of like the basics that you have to have. Under that, it can be done, absolutely. There's many ways in which you can actually I would say survive on less than that, but that would be a good baseline if you have to ask me personally. And that's what I always say in other webinars as well. I have said that Luke can testify that he can witness that I said that before.
Yes, indeed. Well, I hope that is answering that for the people involved, and it's also answering all of the questions that you may have. And that slowly then rounds up this session. So I hope it was useful. From my side, I'd like to thank everybody for joining. Of course, first of all, the people that joined online, the potential students from a lot of different countries. I saw UK, Spain, Azerbaijan, Macedonia, Philippines, Greece, Hungary, US. Well, even more. So great to see that. And of course, thank last but not least the presenters. The professors, Matteo and Armando Fumagalli. Thank you very much, professors, for having joined us.
It's a pleasure.
Good to hear. And Julia, thank you for your moderation part, of course, as well.
Thank you.
I want to just mention before we have a last wrap up from you, Julia, just to mention that I've put the link to apply in the link section. It also popped up on the screen briefly, but it's still visible in the link section under apps at the bottom. So if you click there, you can directly go to the site where to apply if you want to. And last but not least, I have a last polling question, and you can judge us now. So you can tell us how you feel the session was. So you can grade the professors. How do you feel the session was? Was it good? Well, so far so good. Whilst that is going on, maybe a last word is mentioned to you, Julia, to wrap up the session.
Yeah, just saying, I just want to say thank you to the professors as well, because I know you have a packed schedule and it is always nice to make some room for us from your side. And then another thing that I really want to say is if you have any other questions, if you were too shy to ask, there is an email that we give out to everybody, so we know we get back to you as soon as we can. There's a lot of questions coming up every day, but please do not hesitate to use it. International.unicat.it is the website, and international.inquiry@unicat.it is our our email that you can use whenever you feel like you have a question that you could use. Just shoot us an email, please. That would be it for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody,
Bye-bye.
and have a good day. Bye.
You too. Bye.